Well, it is Father's Day, and I don't know. Some of you might know this about me. I don't know if you all do, but some of you might know I've been a dad for almost 7 years now, and let's just say I've had some interesting experiences, to say the least. I think I've earned the super dad mug at this point. But I thought I'd like to maybe share some of those experiences with you so that those of you who may not have had this experience just yet will hopefully learn from my mistakes. I won't call them mistakes, my blessings? I won't call them blessings. And those of you who have had the experience, this will be a wonderful opportunity for you to just have a good laugh at my expense. So, a couple of things I've learned from being a dad to Harper and Hayden, my two girls. The first is, no matter how much they tell you that they're fine, they've digested, that they're ready to bounce around and play, trust your instincts before you put them on your shoulders and start giving piggyback rides all around the house. Because inevitably, what you're going to hear is, and then you have to get a new shirt, which brings me to my other point. Always bring a backup shirt with you to church on Sunday mornings before you're going to speak. Because you never know when you're going to get a peanut butter filled hug or a kiss or anything like that. Also, just remember that the most important thing for you in that moment is the person right in front of you. No matter who they are, no matter how they're showing up, that person right in front of you. And I figured this out last night when I was working on this talk for today, and I would get about 5 minutes into it, and then I'd hear, Dad, we need you. And you would think the sky was falling the way I was hearing, Dad, we need you. And I would get in there, and it would be as someone said, I've got a bump right here on my foot. Okay, all right. But it's always the most important person in front of you in that moment. And that's who you want to pay attention to. You know, as I thought through all of these things and all of these experiences, Harper is our excited, friendly, outgoing one. We take her to a park and she has 10 best friends within 5 minutes. Hayden is shy and reserved and doesn't want to go up and talk to people. She's maybe a little bit more like her daddy in that respect. As I've thought through all of these stories, all of these experiences, all of these moments, I thought back to that saying, that idea, that they say that children are our greatest teachers, and that we can learn the most from our children if we just listen and pay attention to it. And as I thought in that moment, what I realized is that the lesson I was learning from them was to be unapologetically myself. No matter what was going on, no matter what was going on around me, what I was feeling in that moment, just be that. If it's happy, you're happy. If it's sad, you're sad. If you're angry, you're angry. If you have to use the potty, you have to use the potty. Whatever you're feeling in that moment, just be that. And more often than not, if we all show up as our unapologetically authentic selves, things more often than not work out for the best. Now, this idea of being authentic more often than not work out for the best. And who and what we are, it's an important part of our spiritual practice. It's an important part of manifesting the world that we want to see, not just for ourselves, but for our entire what we are. It's an important part of all of us in our practice. It's an important part of manifesting the world that we want to be as a community or as an individuals, but for our entire it's an important part of our spiritual path, all of us in our world. We are able to live authentically. Because it's not just who we want to be as a community or as an individual person possible. See, it's an important part of our spiritual path because when we are able to live authentic, part of us becoming authentic as a community, we're able to become the most successful person that we have to become authentic as individuals. And so, an important part of us becoming authentic as a community, we're going to take on a little bit of a challenge. Surprise, you didn't know you were signing up to be part of a challenge today, did you? Well, you are. So, Each one of us is going to take on this challenge to be unapologetically who and what we've come here to be. Well, you are. Since we're going to do that, each one of us is going to take on this challenge to be unapologetic. We all willing to show up authentically as ourselves? Good. So since we're going to do that, I thought it might be important for us to all be on the same page. We're going to do that, right? Are we all willing to show up authentically as ourselves? Good. What does it look like? So since we're going to do that, I thought it might be important for us to all be on the same page unapologetically what exactly it means to be authentic. So I'm an English major. My bachelor's degree is in English. I got that, and then I went to ministerial school here at Unity Institute. As unapologetic. As an English major, I love words. So I'm an English major. My bachelor's degree is in English. I got that, what the definition of them is, what that means, and why. As an English major, I love words. Mr. Webster's dictionary. At the history of words, to look at his definition, what the definition of them is, what that means, and why. So I took a look at Mr. Webster's dictionary. Is the one we really want to look at for our purpose. Definition for authenticity. The second one was a little bit more interesting if we're going to lunch afterwards. It was talking about authenticity in terms of like authentic. Is the one we really want to look at for our purposes. You know, like an authentic. The second one was a little bit more interesting if we're going to lunch afterwards. It was talking about authenticity in terms of like authentic Mexican food or true to one's own personality. You know, like an authentic nature like that. But this is the one. This is the definition. Part of that definition that really resonated with me. True to one's own that idea of being true to our spirit character. And the part of that light of God really resonated with me was that idea of being true to our spirit. We're living from the truth of that light of God that shines within us. We're not putting up a front. We're not pretending to be things that we're not. It is pride from the truth of who and what we are. And this month we honor the authenticity of not putting up a front. We're not pretending to brother, sister, and non-binary individual who has stood up and boldly proclaimed. And this month we honor the authenticity of every LGBTQI brother, sister, and non-binary individual who has stood up and boldly proclaimed. We allow that to be the example, the thing that gives us the courage to also stand up and say, this is who I am. We allow that to be the example, the thing that gives us the courage to also stand up and say, this is who I am. People. Instead, we're saying because when we live authentically, because we're living, we're no longer saying and doing things not from the truth of what we think we ought to be. Instead, we're saying and doing the truth of what we think this person wants us to be. Because we're living from the truth of what we are, not from the truth of what we think we ought to be. And so, or the truth of what we think this person wants us to be. But the real truth of who and what we are, the most basic truth. And so, what are we? I mean, really, what are we made of? Well, the most basic truth is that we're made up of spirit. Every one of us, again, no matter who you are, or how you show up in this world, each and every one of us is made up of that divinity of God. Every one of us, again, no matter who you are, or how you show up divinity in this world, that was present in every one of us is made up of that divinity of God. And so, for me, this idea of living authentically, that same divinity that was present in the master teacher from the inside out, not from the outside. And so, for me, it means being spirit-led in all that I do. And so means living from the inside out, of the core values that I try to live my life with. It means being spirit-led in all that I do. And so that is one of the core values that I try to live my life with. For strength, for abundance, for love, is being spirit-led, knowing turning that within the spirit come from guidance, for communication, from the presence of God within me, for abundance, for love, not you name it, from the world knowing me, that those things come from here. And the more I live in the presence of God within me, the easier it becomes to authentically show up in every moment. And the more I live my life as spirit. Now, do I always do that? The easier it becomes to authentically show up. None of us is 100% of the time living our lives in that place. Now, do I always do that? I show up angry. Of course not. I got frustrated last night when Harper was sitting behind me playing the piano as I was trying to read through this and learn it. I show up angry. Beautiful song. I got frustrated last night. Might give you a run for your money someday, Joe. Playing the piano as I was trying to read through this. But maybe that's just me being a biased father. Beautiful song. She might give you a run for your money someday, Joe. We all have human moments. But maybe that's just me being a biased father. But I got frustrated. We all have human moments that pop out. That's our spiritual journey. And our spiritual journey is in recognizing those moments and then recommitting to becoming Spirit-led, to looking at those moments and going, you know what? I could do better in that moment, and I will do better. Taking that moment to turn within and to go, okay, how can I be more of the presence of God? But see, it's more than just looking for that guidance. It's more than just sitting in the stillness. It's about taking the strength and the power to act on it. Each one of us is capable of living a life of untold success if we're simply willing to take the time right here and right now to quiet our minds and listen to what it is that Spirit is guiding us to do. But we have to do more than listen, right? Yeah. I love you. Yeah, we have to do more than listen. We have to take action. Unity has 5 basic principles. Do you know what the 5th one is? I'm going to let you speak. You can. Action, yes. It's about taking the steps to live the truth that we know. It's about taking the steps to do the things that we do. It's about doing more than just showing up here on Sunday morning and passively sitting and listening and go, oh, that was nice. He told some funny jokes and I laughed and it was good. Now back to my life. It's about taking the opportunity to take action in all that we do, to truly follow that power, that presence, that light and love of God. So how is it that we do that? How do we show up as that light and that love of Spirit? Well, I'll tell you a little bit about my practice and what it is that I do. Now, earlier we had a time of meditation. We sat, we went into the silence and the stillness. When I want to find and connect with and show up and be authentic, what I do is I take that question into that silence. So for those of you that may not be, I always hesitate to want to assume we're all advanced meditators here. So the pathway I take to get there is I sit, I become comfortable. You might notice you will never hear a minister say, become uncomfortable where you are. And there's a reason for that. It is incredibly difficult to get into your heart space if your back's tight, or if you're sitting in sort of an uncomfortable with your neck crinked in a certain way. So you become comfortable where you are. You pause and you just breathe into that heart space. Breathing into that place that knows that Spirit's there, whatever Spirit looks like for you, whatever God looks like for you. There's no right, there's no wrong. We're all human. We all define God in the way that it works best for us. The issue we have is when I start telling you that my God's better than your God and your God's not as good as mine. We all have our own definitions of Spirit. So we breathe into that knowing. We connect with it. And then we ask, what is mine to do? How am I to show up as that light, that love? And then we listen. We listen. I'm a father of 2 young girls. I say this a lot. Listen and be quiet. And one of the traps that I've fallen into with this is that I get impatient. Am I the only one that has a patience issue sometimes? I want my answer now. I asked, God, tell me. There are times where we have to just be still and know that answer may come in that time of prayer and meditation. It may come when you're driving down the road later. A lot of times mine show up in the shower. The shower is an outstanding place to hear and receive that wisdom. Why? Because we're comfortable, we're relaxed, we're in a calm, peaceful place. 99% of the time we're by ourselves. Again, sometimes children come running by, but most of the time we have just ourselves. We listen. And then the most important piece is we take action. We do what is ours to do. We boldly go forward as unapologetically us, living the truth that we know and being the light and the love that we are. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you all a question to take into your meditation time. Take whatever question you want, but just a little jump start for you. When you get into that silence, when you're in that place of connection with Spirit, I want you to ask, how can I be unapologetically unity? How can I be unapologetically unity? And what I mean by that is, what steps can I take to truly live these principles? To truly live this idea that when I follow the guidance of Spirit within me, I can live a life of unlimited success. I can make a wonderful difference in the world around me. And it is time for us to begin making a wonderful difference in the world around us. If there was ever a time when our world needed a message of love, abundance, compassion, integrity, celebration, and that universal Christ consciousness that unity teaches, it's now. It's now. As we as a nation begin to wrestle with questions and look at the harsh realities as we emerge from the strain of a pandemic that took over 500,000 lives, as we wrestle with how to confront systemic racism in the shadow of the murders of George Floyd, Michael Brown, Sandra Bland, Breonna Taylor, Ma'Khia Bryant, Matthew Williams, Dante Wright, James Johnson, Patrick Warren, and the countless other names that I unfortunately don't have time to mention, but I honor and remember this Juneteenth weekend. We as a nation, we need that power of love, of compassion, of understanding that comes through the connection we have with God. Yes, we can and we should begin with prayer, but we can't stop there. Thoughts and prayers, right? It is time for unity to stop being the best kept secret in spirituality. It's time for us to simply stop praying about it, and time for us to start being unity in the world. Start being the transformation that we know we can be for the world. See, it's time for us to use these spiritual tools that we've learned to do what we can to heal the pain, to calm the anger. Now, I don't know what yours to do, and I'm going to promise you right now, I'm not going to tell you. That's for you to decide. What I will do is give you the tools for you to discern for yourself what is yours to do. And that tool is to go within. To go within and to listen to that still small voice. To listen and take action. See, it's not just enough to listen. We have to take the action based on what we've heard. And so it is time for each and every one of us to look within and ask that presence of God, what is mine to do? How can I share Unity's message of inclusivity, peace, and abundance for all with this world? It's time, as I said, to stop being the best kept secret in the world and to start doing for the world what Unity's done for so many of us, those of us sitting in this room, those of you watching on live stream and in the Zoom room. And that's bring about healing. Bring about a greater understanding of the peace that we are and the realization that each one of us, each and every one of us, is a powerful spiritual being. Regardless of how we look, regardless of who we love, regardless of how we show up, we are a powerful spiritual being. That's what Unity's here to do for each one of us. That's the opportunity these teachings have for us. And that is the journey that we as a community and as individuals choose to undertake, because we know that through authentically and unapologetically being the power and the presence of Spirit, we can truly make the change we wish to see in the world. But the change we wish to see, that change has to begin with Spirit's answer to this question: how can I be unapologetically me? I know that's Spirit's answer. That's not Reverend Brandon's answer, or Reverend Erin's answer, or Charles Fillmore's answer. It's Spirit's answer. How can I be unapologetically me? So this is what I want to leave you with today. How are you to show up in our world? What gifts do you have to give to our world? How can you leave our community and our world a better place than you found it? When we talk about lessons from Father's Day, that's another lesson we try to instill in our children. How can you leave this room a better place than you found it? How can you leave this place, this community, a better place than you found it? Go within, listen, and then do it. You all have a role to play. And the time to sit idly by and just sit and watch, that's gone. It's time for you, for me, for all of us to show up proudly, shining our lights, and to truly make the difference that we are all capable of making. We're powerful beings, each and every one of us. So, listen, show up, and use your power. There was a wise man that once said, with great power comes great responsibility. We all have great power. All of us. And we have the responsibility to use that power to make this world not just a better place, not just a place that's a little bit better than we found it, but to make this the world that works for all. And we do that when we're able to show up unapologetically and authentically as ourselves and as the presence of God. And so that's our work this week. That's the challenge that we have. It's a lot easier for me to stand here and say it than it is for us to go out and do it. I'm going to stop stepping on the mic cord. But that's the challenge for each and every one of us this week. is to be unapologetically, authentically yourself. And to share that light in that world, and to share that light with our world. Because when you do that, not only do you find success, but this world becomes so much better because you're in it as you. God bless you all.